Hi everybody, it's Amanda from Queen of Hearts Photography and welcome back to my tutorials. Today I have a super fun creative tutorial to do for you. I'm going to show you how I took a picture of my sun and I kind of extended the canvas to make the sky bigger, and I added in this really fun rainbow and it was super fun, and I'm going to teach you some new techniques, so I hope you stay tuned and learn something new. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to open up a new file. So I'm going to go to File, New, and this is the size that I'm going to leave it at. This is usually the size that I usually will leave my files when I'm like creating a new image. So the width is 5616 and the height is 3744, and I'm going to have my resolution here at 300, and I'm going to hit OK. Now, I don't care what color the background is because we're obviously not going to leave it like that. Okay, so here is the folder of some of the pictures we are going to use. We're basically going to stitch these three together to create one photo. So this here is the photo that I want of my sun. So I'm going to just drag and drop. So I love this image. The problem is I would have liked him more over here. Off center, I would have liked to have some more sky and stuff, so I just created that. I'm going to show you how I did that. So I'm going to bring him down a little bit, like right about there is about where I'm going to want him. So I'm going to click OK. And what we're going to do is we're going to extend the sky and obviously the grass and stuff over here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the grass. So I'm going to grab this image here, pull it over. Now I'm going to set it, and I'm going to bring the opacity down just so I can see, so I can line everything up here. It's not going to line up perfectly because obviously they're two different pictures. So we're going to have to go in and clone some of this, but I'll show you that also. So this is where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to bring the opacity back up to 100. But I'm going to take my image that I want of my sun, and I'm going to bring it on top just so it's on top there. Okay, so then the image here, the background image that we have back here, I'm going to add a layer mask. I'm going to hit Control-I to invert it, so now it's invisible, you can't see it. I'm going to grab a brush, a white brush, make sure your brush is at 100% opacity, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here. And I'm going to go ahead and brush it on over here. I'm going to extend it up just a little bit and a little bit over, so we have a little bit of extra space to work with, because obviously we have to also get rid of this line here. So make this a little bit. Okay, so now we have those two images. We're going to go in and fill in our sky. So I'm going to go back to my folder here, and I have this image selected that I want to use for the sky. So I'm going to drag and drop, and I want this one. I'm going to go ahead and set this one. I want this one to be behind everything. There we go. So I'm going to put it at the very bottom. Okay. I'm actually not going to erase anything off of this one at the moment, but I'm going to go up to the main image here and add a layer mask. Now we got to get rid of these lines, obviously. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just go in and erase these lines. Okay, now obviously we have a little bit of blending to do. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to kind of keep erasing until I have the sky the way that I want it to be. That's pretty good. Now the next thing that we're going to have to work with is fixing this right here, of course. And I think I'm going to pull in some extra clouds, because you can see that this and this, I guess they're not really the same. I guess they're not the same, are they? They're two different clouds. They look similar though, don't they? But they're not. So, okay, so that works. You can always pull in more clouds if you wanted the clouds to be different, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave it. So the next thing we want to do is make a new image out of all of our layers here so we can do some cloning and fix this part. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to hold down Control-Alt-Shift and then press E. So that's going to create a new layer here out of all of our layers. And I'm going to pick our cloning brush, make sure it's at 100%, and I'm just going to select the piece of grass here, hit Alt, and hold down the, what is this, the left button here on your mouse. Sorry, I'm like trying to focus and talk at the same time, so And then we're just going to go ahead and clone this out a little bit. Of course, that's uneven, so that's not going to work. We're going to have to try that again. I go more in depth with cloning in some of my other videos, if you want to watch some of the other cloning videos. Okay, so now this is obviously naturally, it was already on a slope because we were on a hill, so that's the way that it was. So that doesn't need to be straightened. Unless it bothers you, then you could go in and you could probably mess with the lines here and make it straighter, but it was already naturally on a curve, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it the way that it was. So here's our new image. So far, we started out with this here, and now we have this one here. So far so good. So let's go ahead and flatten these so we can start editing. So editing should be pretty quick. I'm going to go in to the Back to Basics set, and I'm going to run the basic primer. We're going to have to do a slight bit of tweaking because the center fill light is going to be in the center, and obviously he's off center, so we're going to have to fix that. So I'm going to open this up, hide this real quick, and here's the center fill. We're going to double click on it, and then it should be able to pull that up there. You can see it moving. I'm going to pull it over on him, hit OK. I'm going to bring it up to 100% though. I think I want it on 100%. That's probably over a little bit too much. Alright, there we go. I'm going to leave it on 100%. I'm going to leave everything else the way it is. So here's before, here's after. I'm going to go ahead and flatten this. Yes. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with cotton from the Heirloom collection here. We're going to run this. We're also going to have to tweak the vignette in here because you can see it's in the center and we need it off center. So we're just going to double click on the vignette, pull it over ever so slightly, then hit OK. Now I'm going to pull this down, the opacity of the entire action, because I want the overall image tone to stay cool, because obviously we're going to throw in a rainbow here, and the sky is obviously like storm clouds, so we want it to be on that side, the cool side. So I'm going to pull it down. About 60 is pretty good, maybe even a little bit closer to 50. So before and after, it kind of just adds like the slightest little stormy effect. But now that I'm looking at that vignette, it's still not where I want it. Oops. No. All right. That's a little bit better. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and merge all this. The next thing I'm going to add is color depth from the Back to Basics collection here. I'm going to run it. And I'm going to leave it as is, except I'm going to erase it off of my son because I don't want it to be too much on him. So just using a black brush, I'm just going to go in quickly and just erase a little bit of it off of him so it doesn't darken him up. I want him to stay as light as he can. And just worry about maybe kind of. Alright, so before and after, it just kind of darkens up the background, which is what I wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is something just real quick. I'm going to use the white teeth action, and I'm actually going to use this on his tank top because it is not supposed to be blue. It's supposed to be white. But it's got a blue hue to it because obviously the entire environment at that time was a lot cool because of the clouds and obviously because of his shirt. So I'm just going to go in with the white brush here and try to be as careful as I can, and we're just going to whiten it up. As you can see, it takes out all the dullness and the blue hue in his shirt. I should probably zoom in when I do this, but I'm trying not to make this video too long for you. So that's pretty good. I'm just going to go in and make sure I didn't get in there on his chest here. So it makes quite a big difference. The before and the after. You can see quite a difference. So I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and flatten that. So the next thing we're going to run, I know it seems like so many actions, but this, if you did this all by hand, it would take so much longer. That's why I created these for myself. So I'm going to run the oil painting brush, and I'm just going to run this on the clouds. I'm not going to brush it onto anything else. Hit OK. I'm going to grab a pretty large white brush here and just brush it on. You can see it also deepens the sky, but it's just going to kind of smooth out the sky and give it this nice painted kind of effect. Love this action. It's my favorite. I have a hard time not using it, and there are just some images that, like portrait, well, I guess it depends on what kind of portrait you're taking. There are just some images that you don't want it to, you know, have that painted effect. It just depends on the image, but I have a hard time not using it because I love it so much. So I can see on my, whoopsies, I can see on my layer mask here, down here, you see where the little black is? Those are the spots that I missed. So I want to make sure that I get all those. Now they're starting to, I don't want to get that's some of the water, and I don't want any of the water. Actually, don't even want the horizon line there. All right. Okay, so I'm going to leave it like that. Actually, no, I lied. I'm going to open this up, and the glow layer, I'm going to bring that down a little bit to like 50%. The glow layer really deepens it up, if you can see, and I don't want it too deep, so about 40%. I'm going to go ahead and flatten that. Okay, so we are going to run the sharpening brush, my favorite way to sharpen, quick and easy. Hit OK. Grab myself a white brush here, a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to sharpen up my baby boy here. A little bit on the grass. You see that really makes him pop pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and flatten that. And then the last thing I'm going to do really quickly is not an action. I want to kind of just deepen this up. I want to give it a little bit of more depth, but not something too intense. So I'm going to do it by hand. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with the selective color here. Go to neutrals. I'm going to add a 5 to the black. And then down to the blacks, I'm going to add a 5 to the blacks also. But I want to erase this off my son. So I'm going to get myself a black brush here. And a small black brush and erase it off of him, because like I said, I want him to stay as light as possible, so any of the extra depth that we do, I want to take it off of him if I can. Leave him as light as possible. So that's just going to deepen up a little bit more, so before and after, just a little bit. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and flatten that. So, now the last thing we're going to do here is add the rainbow coming from his paintbrush. So, what I did here is I used the rainbow overlays. I used set 2, and I used the rainbow number 3 because it was just perfect for this. So, I'm going to drag and drop. I'm going to hit it to screen. And I'm going to kind of drag it over here, like next to his paintbrush. I don't want to get it too close to him. We can always adjust it when we're finished. So I'm going to show you. First, I'm just going to set it here for right now. I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to go up here. Obviously, there's a line. We're going to fix that. We're going to go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. That's pretty good to me. You can just play with it however you want it to look. I want to make sure that line is pretty gone, so that's pretty good. I'm going to move this over probably just a little bit, grab my little pointer here and just pull it down just a little bit so it overlaps on his paintbrush. Just like that. I just don't want any of the color to be on him, so probably over. Just like that. Looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flatten this. And here we have our final image. I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit so I can pull up our original. So here's our original. Here's after all of the merging of the images and the actions and the overlays, and here's the completed image. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I definitely hope that you learned something new. I would love to see some of your experiments that you try after you watch this video. Share with me on my Facebook page, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.